Our next project, we're going to be making a slab mug that we turn into a tiki mug. Okay, so it looks way more complicated than it is. You can add a handle. You do not need to add a handle. But we're going to start with a slab, and you guys already know how to roll that out, either using the slab roller or a rolling pin. So what we're going to do is we're first going to use a ruler to get nice straight edges. And how big you make it is really up to you. But just like with using a regular ruler on paper, you want to measure both the top and the bottom. And what we'll do is we'll connect it. Then we'll go, I'll do 7 inches. No, I'm going to do 6. We'll go 6 up, put a line, 6 inches up, and put a line. Then we connect it. So this one is 12 by 6. Now I'm not sure. I might edit that once I cut it fully out. I then look about how wide that'll be. I can see maybe it's too wide, maybe I want it to be a little bit thinner. Actually, I'm going to try to go with a little bit wider one this time, so I'm going to keep it like that. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to bevel my edges. And what that is I'm cutting at roughly a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to do it this way here. So I'm going to do it the same angle on the other side. So if the camera can come down here and see, I'm actually cutting kind of underneath. So that way it's the same angle. Okay, I'm not beveling it both sides. I'm cutting at the same angle. And what that will do is when we bring it around, those two will overlap and it'll make it a little bit easier to make a nice smooth edge. So what we're going to do is once we have that, we're going to score it up. We'll add a little bit of slip. If your slip starts to dry out like this, just drop a little bit of water into it and stir that back up, and it'll start to thin out again. Okay? So we're going to add the slip in. Add a little bit to both sides. Then we're going to bring it up and we're going to line up this bevel as close as we can. So now if you look at top, you see how it lines up. Okay? Then we go back to this tool and we work on smoothing them together. Now, if you made it so thin that you can't fit your hand in there, that's okay. Use tools to hold it, to keep its shape, so that way you can work it out. Okay? Next step is we're going to use the other part. We're going to score, add the slip on. We're going to twist it back and forth. Now here you want to be very careful to make sure that you're getting a nice circular shape. You want to make sure that you keep that shape, because Once this locks in, it's almost impossible to change. We're then going to cut around, but we're going to leave just a little bit extra. If you look, there's about maybe a 1/4 inch. And what I'm doing is I'm blending it up together. I'm using this to hold shape at the bottom. I'm going to flip it around and just clean up a little bit of it. Then I'm going to take a tool and I'm going to try to smooth the bevel line in here. As much as I can. Okay. So now we have our mug. Okay. Building onto this, anytime that we add pieces, so with this guy, okay, if I want to add a mouth on, what I would do is I'd make a coil. And again, we score both sides. And then we start to add it in. Now, the one biggest thing you need to keep an eye on is as you're applying things, you're going to be doing a lot of blending and a lot of smoothing. You always need to make sure that you're counter braced on the inside. Okay? If you're not counter braced, you're going to end up ruining your project. Because if you push in too hard, it's going to change the entire shape of the mug. Okay, now I'm not going to go through and do the entire thing, but you get it on, then you can smooth so it makes it look like it was always one piece. Okay, so that's an easy way to add things on. You can also remove clay if you want to change its shapes out. Okay? If I want to create kind of a pattern like I have here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tool like this and I'm going to go in and get my bigger lines out like this. Now the idea with the tiki is that it kind of hides any mistakes that you make. So if we have it and it's not perfectly smooth, that's fine. We can go back in and add in texture using loop tools. And you can use the bigger loop tool to get wider textures or the more narrow loop tool. And I'm not trying to get perfectly straight lines. I'm trying to get interesting textures. Now, once it's done, is when you add in these textures to make it look more unique. Okay, so we go through, we do all the textures. You're going to take a little bit of water and a brush, and smooth those down. So that way you get this wood-like texture on the Tiki Mug. And the way we glaze it is another special way, which we'll fire it first, then we'll do one coat of a really kind of lighter glaze. We'll fire that once. Then we'll go in with the same color but darker. So if you like, this one's brown. So we did a light brown, then we go in with a dark brown and we'll paint everything and then wipe it off. So that way the dark brown just sits in the lower parts and stays behind. And we'll rub everything off. It's called a rub and buff glaze or other thing. There's a bunch of different names for it. And that way all your details will pop out and all the intricacies will pop out. But this is the basic concepts. Where you go with this is completely up to you. If you want to add in a handle, if you want to add other things. But the requirements for this are that it's a slab mug, okay, that has a tiki face on it and the texture of a tiki, okay? Again, where you go with this is completely up to you, but this will be a fully functional mug when you're done. You'll be able to put things in here, drink out of it, put flowers in it, whatever you want to do, it'll be fully functional. So that's it. That's the Tiki slab mug, and it is, in my opinion, for Ceramics 1, it's going to be the hardest thing that we do, but it's also going to be the coolest thing that you do.